Now, we touched upon this earlier, which is the four classical paths of yoga. So the eight limbs comes from Raha Yoga, the royal path of meditation. This is kind of just using meditation for your way of connecting to unity. And so the eight limbs is a great framework, a great science to really articulate what the path, the royal path is really about. But there's three other classical paths that I want to mention that are very beneficial to getting to these higher states of embodiment. So for example, karma yoga, the path of action. This is selfless service without attachment to the fruits of your labor. So for example, Jesus is a great example of someone who was practicing karma yoga, whether he knew about it or not, because he was doing so much service out of pure selflessness, out of pure love, out of pure action. And this is also kind of similarly to Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, where the heart as an altar, love as the offering. And so Jesus is another great example of this. I feel like if you really had to boil down a lot of his teachings as really the karma and bhakti yoga paths. Granted, I think he was doing all four amazingly. And so really understanding the bhakti yoga path, the path of devotion, is kind of what we touched upon earlier with in niyamas about discipline and devotion. Whereas disciplined, you're kind of sometimes acting out of a state of scarcity. When you're devoted, everything is coming out of love. And so you really, once you understand that the underlying aspect behind all of reality is gracefully unconditional love, when you can start to operate from non-duality, which is that unconditional love, then you can start to really start performing and acting in this world with gratitude, with embodiment. And I think this is why Bhakti Yogi is one of the most beautiful paths that you can walk. And then there's Jnana Yoga, the path of wisdom. This is kind of the path of questioning, like, who am I? Which is cutting through the illusions to pure awareness. This is sharpening the mind and really breaking down all the false concepts that the mind creates by using the mind. This is kind of like being able to place the ego into its proper place as, a software engineer or as someone who can also debug a lot of the bugs it created. And why I really wanted to add this to this presentation is because I think all four of these paths of yoga are very essential. I mean, we just went over the royal path of meditation, and you can see, I think, clearly through this great science of the eight limbs, how this can really benefit anyone's life, how understanding meditation to this level and participating in meditation to this level is going to create so much liberation in one's experience. But I think the same with karma and bhakti yogi and jnana yoga. As in karma yoga, like once you kind of hit samadhi and start to have all these crazy states of meditation, I mean, what is there to do? You finally hit the finish line and then realize there was a starting line. And so then you have to actually start acting in this world, which is karma yoga. And so where can you act where you're not creating more imbalances, more karma entanglement to a negative degree, to a degree where you're attached versus a degree where you're non-attached. You kind of just have to play in this world of karma. That's kind of the whole point of you reincarnating. And so I think karma yoga is a very essential path to understand as well. So with bhakti yoga, the path of devotion is where you lead from the heart, where you really understand that through this rise of consciousness that we're all experiencing from ego self-awareness is to move to Christ consciousness, where everything is leading from unconditional love, understanding that everything is unified, everything is in relationship. And so the path of bhakti yoga, the path of devotion, is a super huge one to really understand, and it's such a beautiful one to really be devoted to life. It's such a special and important aspect of the spiritual path. And then obviously jnana yoga, the path of wisdom, questioning who am I, is another important aspect to this whole spiritual path. I mean, to be able to sharpen the mind and really be able to create discernment and use the wisdom of the mind is very important, because without the balancing of the mind and with the overrunning of the heart, people can take advantage of that pure devoted love, whereas we really want that mind heart coherence. And so as you're able to dissect all the illusions through the path of jhana yoga, it is very important to also balance it out with the heart, with devotion, with the action. And so really why I'm kind of reiterating all these things is that you kind of want to have the combination of all things. You always want to approach things holistically. So being able to go through all the four paths together will really lead you to the middle path, to the center point. These are all the cardinal directions that lead you to the center. There's a really famous yogic story that kind of emphasized this, where the Raha Yoga, the Karma Yogi, the Bhakti Yogi, and a Jnana Yogi are all searching for God in the forest. And it's not until they come together does God actually appear. And so this is really just showing that you must approach it from all angles, through the wisdom of the mind, through the questioning, through the philosophizing, as well as through pure devotion, heart opened, purely surrendered, through the actions you take, through non-attachment and doing stuff selflessly, and then through meditation and introspection and really finding presence. Super important and a continuous journey, even if you understand these things.